Former President Donald Trump indicted for the fourth time, this time for his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. A Georgia grand jury has charged Trump with racketeering and a number of conspiracy charges in the 41-count indictment. Here to break it all down, Yahoo Finance's Alexis Keenan, as well as Newman. Alexis, let me go to you first for the legal perspective of all this. Break down the charges that former President Trump is facing.
Okay, so this is a state case. It is brought by state prosecutors, and that makes it a little bit different from the other case that is also arising from actions allegedly to overturn the 2020 election. Makes it different from that federal case that was filed a couple of weeks ago. Now, these new charges are against Trump along with 18 other defendants. They say that they violated state laws by pressuring elected officials to alter the vote count, also by making false claims regarding the vote. You can remember back when Trump was tweeting a lot about that. Some of those claims are in there. Also, some of these defendants, they include Trump's former White House chief of staff, Mark Meadows, Trump attorneys, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Sidney Powell. The complaint here, the indictment rather, it contains 41 crimes in total alleged. 13 of those are against former President Trump. All of the defendants are facing racketeering charges, and that charge alone carries a maximum of 20 years in prison. There are other charges wrapped up in this indictment against the various defendants. Those include conspiracy, soliciting public officers, officials, false statements, impersonating public officers, also forgery, false document filings, as well as attempting to influence various witnesses. These new charges, of course, stack on top of the 3 additional indictments that have been handed down against Trump and others over the course of the last 4 months or so. You have the case in D.C. that I mentioned previously against Trump and 6 co-conspirators. You also have the federal case in Florida alleging that Trump had retained classified documents after having left office. And then on top of that, you have the state charges in New York that allege that Trump had falsified documents related to hush money payments to the adult film star Stormy Daniels. So a lot to think about here.
Yeah, I mean, Alexis, so we're talking about 4 indictments just over a year out from the presidential election. What does the timeline for these trials look like?
Yeah, so the first one, Akiko, is in March. And so that starts to get into primary territory. Then over the course of these 4 cases, usually the federal cases will be set for trial about a year out from when they are filed. So that could take us all the way through the November elections and certainly creates a frustrating environment for the president to try to, on one hand, go forward with this campaign and also fight against these lawsuits and all of these charges. There are many, as you see.
Brooke, when we talk about the timeline of these court cases, how much does that matter? And what are the implications here when we talk about Donald Trump trying to get elected again in 2024?
I mean, it's mind-boggling. This is completely unprecedented by orders of magnitude. So, think about the timeline Alexis just laid out there. Trump is probably going to be mired in criminal prosecutions for years. I mean, it's reasonable to think that this will go on long past the 2024 election date. And one thing judges can do is talk to each other and sort of sequence these trials so that you don't have one trial going on at the same time as another. So it could be one trial, then another, then another, then another. Now Trump has broadly indicated that if he gets elected president in 2014, he'll stop prosecuting himself. He will order the Justice Department to, stop the prosecutions of himself if those happen to still be underway. He can't do that with the New York City case, and he cannot do that with the Georgia case. There are so many imponderables here that it's almost impossible to predict how this will affect Trump's ability to campaign. I mean, the first thing you have to think about is just the stress on the person himself. Trump seems indefatigable and always happy to have a fight, but he's probably never faced anything like this. Second is the cost. We know this is already cutting into his political campaign funds, mostly from the super PAC where the big donations go. Some of that money, a lot of it actually, is now being put into legal defense for not just for Trump, but for many of the others indicted with him. So maybe Trump can withstand that. He gets so much media. Maybe he doesn't need the money for advertising. Maybe being in the presidential race is sort of the thing that will keep him going through all these trials. But I would be kind of surprised if a year from now things still look the way they do today, which is that Trump is actually the candidate of the Republican Party.
So, I mean, that's the question, right, Rick? So far, these indictments, appear to have only bolstered support for the president for those who are most loyal. But is there anything from a legal standpoint that could potentially disqualify him from running for president again?
No, there doesn't seem to be any way that any of this could legally disqualify him for running. But if you think about from a practical angle, it does seem plausible there could be a plea deal in at least one of these four cases. And I would think this would have to come within one of the two federal cases, that part of the plea deal is that Trump steps down as a presidential candidate and is barred from running for office again. Trump has indicated there's no way he will ever do that. But if you think about it, Trump could actually be using the fact that he's running for president as a bit of leverage. That might be something he could give prosecutors, especially if it looks like he might get convicted and actually go to jail, and it might happen before the 2024 election date. So like I said, many, many things to ponder here, and I regret to say we're going to be talking about this for a long time.
We will be talking about this for a long time. All right, Rick and Alexis, thanks.